Hi everyone, my name is Noel Perez, and I'll be discussing my PowerPoint presentation titled "The Opportunities of an Intern." I titled it "The Opportunities of an Intern" because throughout my various internship sites, there were different opportunities that presented themselves as long as we're willing to initiate progress and confidence in accepting those opportunities. So. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link, a YouTube link for my video, and then hopefully you can watch it side by side as you're clicking through my slides, or you can double screen it if you have an Apple. So if you'll go to the next slide after the introduction, we'll get into the location of internships. So my first internship, it was one day, great experience, finished results timing company. They serve mostly Southern California. They time race events such as triathlons, half marathons, mostly focused in the high school section though, doing road track events, cross-country races. And I interned when they were here locally in Riverside. And my next one was with the USA fencing organization, which held a tournament here at the Anaheim Convention Center. And my primary internship site was with Joel Diaz Training Center here in Indio, California, which is a boxing facility for youth and for professional fighters. So if you can click to the next slide. So I broke this down into the strengths per each internship. That way you can make it simple. So my primary one, the Joel Diaz Training Camp. So the primary strength with the boxing organization, and I'm speaking from the one that I interned at. I'm not sure if other boxing organizations would offer the same opportunities as I had, but we were definitely traveling a lot, and our head coach manager was actually traveling more than I was, and our other coaches, because he gets paid to travel. So. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Ontario twice, Ontario, California. I was able to travel here locally to our Fantasy Springs Casino where we had 2 events. And then I was also able to travel to Fresno last weekend. The main thing is networking here at the boxing facility, professional relationships. And it was kind of nerve-wracking, when it's a new sport. I really have, I was minimal in my conversations because I didn't have a strength in boxing, and I also was utilizing my translation skills. Mostly Spanish is spoken in our gym, and I was serving as a translator at our events with the commissioners, referees, while they were going over the rules and regulations for our fighters. So the finished results strengths. So they're owners of their equipment, which is huge. They don't have to pay anyone. Ability to travel with trailers, which makes them, being able to commute to and from different work job sites that they're hired throughout Southern California. They've traveled to Arizona. They've traveled to Nevada. They've traveled to Oregon, and strengths, they have a tech on site who knows how to code and format websites, which is huge now in our era. To have an employee with that strength and skill, to be able to on site troubleshoot issues or create new opportunities of websites and apps, which they are working on, that's a huge strength that I believe will take them further than they already are. USA Fencing strengths, they have corporate sponsors, which allows them to do what they need to do in terms of finances. It's a unique sport, a lot of competition. It's been around since 1986, so roughly over 20 years. They offer coach and referee training education, which is huge for people aspiring and trainers aspiring to get into the field of fencing. And I think a huge strength with the USA fencing organizations is that they have an all age categories. When I went to intern, they had little ones, little tiny. I forgot what the beginning age was, but and then they go all the way up to whatever age that the people want to continue to fence, and they offer scholarship opportunities for students. So those are the huge benefits and strengths of the internships. The primary ones, I have a list of a tremendous amount of strengths, but so if you'll follow me to the next page now with the weaknesses in the internships. So with Joel Diaz training camp, so being there on site, I felt that the training camp could use a larger facility to promote more attendance, but at the same time, there's minimal coaches. But in these types of organizations, the competitors are paying and the promoters are paying for that person to coach, which is our main trainer, Joel Diaz, and his brother, Antonio Diaz. So it makes things a little bit difficult. Also, they don't have a website. He has an Instagram account, which he has over 19,000 followers. But they don't have an actual social media website, which I think would be a tremendous help in terms of communication, contact, email. But he did tell me, he told me directly that they're old school. And, I tried to convince him that, hey, maybe it's time that we move in that direction. He also manages homes that he purchased through one of his bigger contracts that he was able to finance and purchase the homes, which he houses the boxers in. So he does not have an assistant to go do at-home visits, which takes time away from potential training or potential other negotiations that could be happening throughout the boxing professional world. Their hours of operation are not ideal. Well, at least in my sake, with work, they operate from 11 to 3 for the professionals, and then from 3 to 7 p.m. roughly for the youth. So those are the main targets on the weaknesses of the internship with Joel Diaz training camp. Now with finished results, weaknesses, the app needs to be improved. There have been issues on the app, and I've read reviews on forums from other coaches. The app had a tendency to crash. And also, the cost of hiring could improve. Basically, to be competitive in the race timing industry, as more companies start to pop up, the cost of hiring finished results could get a little complicated. Their website could also use some updating, which they are working on. Also, they are limited in trailers and employees to conduct business. So the trailers that they hold all the equipment in, I believe they have 5 operating trailers, which if they had more trailers and more trained employees, properly trained employees, they'd be able to venture off into different areas or be at multiple places at once, timing events. And also the need for advertising. I spoke with Chris Drescher, the owner of Finished Results. They haven't put that much of an emphasis on advertising. Most of the advertising comes directly from coaches, because coaches are the ones that call the timing company to schedule and to get a quote to time a certain race or event. So those are the areas, weaknesses, the primary weaknesses in the internships with that. With USA Fencing, the weaknesses that I saw or the needed improvement were definitely the need for trainers, coaches, and competitors in the section of persons with disabilities. I was speaking to a lot of the competitors there with disabilities, and they were just telling me the difficulties they have of finding, first of all, a training facility, finding coaches, and also finding other people who have special needs or disabilities. Because they told me it's not the same thing, that there are facilities they go to, but if they're training with somebody without disabilities, they don't get the real feel as training with someone with disabilities. So they told me, I think within the past 2 to 3 years, that the competition has started to come up now, and it's becoming a little the sport itself is promoting persons with disabilities to compete in fencing. And also another weakness in the internship was just the tournament hosting. Maybe increasing the the locations of hosting tournaments. I think organizations get used to being in certain areas all the time, but I think if it were to move around either nation or worldwide, it would offer different people in those areas the opportunity to compete and not have to travel as far. And also, weaknesses while I was there interning, was the communication amongst organizers, workers, and volunteers. We got into a little. Well, I didn't, but one of the employees, or two of the employees there, were not guided in the right direction, and us volunteers were kind of pushed to the side momentarily while they were discussing. And it felt a little, I could feel the pressure there, but they were able to work it out. But I think that just comes back to communication and organizing your volunteers, organizing the people that are actually employed through USA Fencing. So those are the weaknesses in the internships with the three that I went to. So now if you'll click to the next page, we'll go to interns and opportunities. So I titled it Interns and Opportunities because as interns, as long as we put ourselves in the right position, we can have opportunities. So with Joel Diaz training camp, what I was envisioning was the growth opportunity to open a new facility. Their current facility is run under, they're under the umbrella of the Boys and Girls Club. So that's where the limited hours comes into play and into consideration. Now, if they were to open their own facility, they'd be able to have a facility, create their own hours, create their own schedules. The only deficit with that becomes they'd have to pay into their own liability insurance. They'd have to construct everything from bottom up. But again, everything's a process if you want to be successful. Also, the interns and opportunities, positive relationship with surrounding gyms. Our gym was very, very open, welcoming with other gyms. We were able to schedule sparring sessions with local gyms nearby. Local meaning 2 to 3 hour time frame drive. We would also be a middle ground site for women potential boxers. When we had boxers coming from San Diego and we had other boxers coming from Arizona, we would offer our facility as a middle grounds for them to spar. As women boxing is slowly increasing now. Also, website potential. Joel Diaz, as I mentioned earlier, he has the potential to create a website, and I think he can get a little more foot traffic on that end. Travel opportunities. As long as you're willing to travel, I think the travel opportunities are there. I was fortunate enough to attend, I believe, 5 events within my 4-month time frame with Joel Diaz. And of course, celebrity meet and greet. I was meeting professional boxers. I was seeing professional boxers here at the training camp, being within close proximity, being able to record their sessions with permission, and being ringside when it's event time. Joel Diaz, he made it happen. I was there ringside with the professionals. I was there meeting everyone. I was talking to everyone that I possibly could interact with, discussing what it is in their position that they do. I was asking a million questions. And social media presence, just being there ringside, cameras on them and us. So that's an opportunity there. With finished results, the timing company, advertising on the website could increase for them. They can, once they can prove that they have foot traffic, they can potentially ask corporate sponsors to put their advertisements on the website. They could also start charging a fee for the app when all errors are fixed and there's no crashes or minimal crashes. There's also potential for employee growth, and there's a potential for technology to increase in that area as well. So, and in USA Fencing, the opportunities are, there's growth, as I mentioned earlier, there's growth in areas for persons with disabilities and increased competition with coaches, and also increase the opportunities for volunteers. So basically just bringing more people in, getting more people involved, letting everyone know that the organization exists, Um, and I think it was great that we were able to get that email from Professor Jarvis, um, letting us know of the internship. And I spoke with, I believe her name was, Ashley Gardner, who was there managing us, the interns and volunteers. And on her end, she's doing a great job. She's reaching out to universities and letting them know of the opportunities that exist. So now the threats with the organizations. Well, Diaz Training Camp. So there's minimal coaches, as I mentioned. It's a small facility. Rules and regulations must be ready to adapt. Just in case boxing rules change all the time, they must be ready to adapt. Also, website media is needed. Overhead cost, as I mentioned, if the Boys and Girls Club were to eliminate the program itself, then they would be left on their own to pay for their own costs. Loss of coach potential threat. If something, God forbid, if something were to ever happen to one of our coaches, that could potentially, crash the whole organization, as people rely on those specific coaches to be coaching the athletes. Also, loss of fights could threaten business. So when promoters send a fighter to Joel Diaz training camp, they're expecting, or they're hoping that fighter is going to win. But if that fighter doesn't make it happen in the ring, then it's a potential loss of business, because if Joel Diaz training camp is not sending or is not accomplishing successful fighters, when promoters are sending them, then it could threaten the business, because people are not going to want to send their athletes to coaches who are not successful in that sense. So threats with the organization, with Finished Results Timing Company, with technologies, there's always updates and there's always issues that people come across. The need for more expensive equipment always comes into play, because technology changes rapidly. Every 3 months, every 4 months, a new app or technology and equipment is being updated, which means the need to spend more money. Also, technology crashing during events is a possibility that can happen. Also, coach satisfaction, maintaining positive interactions with coaches, because as I mentioned in my paper, that coaches are the backbone to the organization. Coaches are the primary source of business. Coaches are the ones that call us as at Finished Results Timing Company to schedule a race or event. Also, competitors offering a lower rate of service can also come into play. There could be a local nearby timing company that can offer a better rate than we do. Competitors offering better service through website and app. It's becoming popular that people offer live results, live feed, live video through app and website. So if Finished Results is not keeping up with that, that could be potential loss of business on their end. And again, more employees are needed with the organization, so that could become a threat. Now, the threat with USA Fencing, facility rental for space can increase, therefore limiting what facilities they can rent out for such large organizations. I was surprised at how huge the venue was at the Anaheim Convention Center. Increase in travel for new locations. And also competitors, as far as USA Fencing, other organizations could offer better services for persons with disabilities. And I'm focusing on persons with disabilities because there's a small amount of people that are competing and coaching in that event, but that's an area that somebody can create an opportunity for in the sports industry. And also changes in technology as assisting in-depth review. There could also be organizations with better equipment, recording the live events as we were working there on site. So now we'll go to the next slide, values, faiths, and beliefs. So throughout my internship experience, I was honest. Integrity was high. I was dependable. I was committed to learning, and I think and I think in reading, the online, not the online, the ebook that Professor Jarvis that we were reading off of, just believing in the success of the organizations that you're associated with, knowing your role, and not going too much on one end when you're a new guy or girl, um, and just being honest. I think honesty is such a huge asset to organizations um, that I think sometimes we take for granted. Um, and we were just speaking with the different people that I was involved with, just being passionate about your career, about your job. Um, I was offered an opportunity uh, with a professor that I met at UCR. He was speaking to me about a possible teaching position slash coaching fencing. Um, Based off my work that I was doing, that I was performing there on site for them, and I was humbled. So I think being authentic. I think being authentic is huge. Uh, I don't think somebody would approach you uh, in a sense that they're being dishonest. So I think being authentic, being honest with what it is that we're discussing. I think letting people know what adjustments can be made, um, and I think just trusting in God that that we make the right decisions. There were a couple times I had to step away just to take a deep breath, and you know what, just uh, as we learned throughout our courses, um, just to be able to visualize what it is we're going to say next, because it can affect ourselves, the organization, the community. Um, for example, the USA Fencing example that I brought up earlier with disorganization and communication. So I think overall, it was a great experience interning with the three sites. And now, integration of sports. Next slide, integration of strengths into the real world of sports. So I titled it Integration of Strengths into the Real World of Sports because now uh, I think it's beneficial for interns to have multiple sites, to be prepared that one site will not come through, or maybe one site will promise you hours, but you end up getting minimal hours on one end, which happened to me, and Professor Jarvis assisted me through the process. I was 3 weeks in the course uh, with an internship site that promised me that I was going to be able to cover my hours, but then 3 weeks in, I hear no contact from no email, no phone call. So I was just kind of left to the side, which I felt kind of devastated. But um, you know what? It's in those situations that we learn that, hey, you know what? I should have been prepared, and I should have had another site opportunity. So I was fortunate to have been able to intern at three different sites. Most of the hours coming from Whole Ideas Training Center. So us as interns, what I believe our position is as interns is just to listen, mostly listen to listen and observe what's going on around us, seeing how organizations run outside of our own realm of sports. I'm a cross country and track guy, so boxing was, I love watching boxing, but I've never known what goes behind the scenes. Fencing, I had zero knowledge of fencing, and timing I also had zero knowledge of. My computer skills are minimal, so I believe, learning about different areas, we were able to put all that together, and we're able to string all those webs together, and then create ourselves into a successful person for the future. Um, and I think that's how we integrate the strengths. Basing ourselves off what we don't know and creating ourselves opportunities um, to better ourselves for the future of organizations. That we may start a business, we may be associated with collegiate level sports, high school level sports, education. There's just a variety of tools that we come across in the real world. Now it's just applying what we learn and what we've seen throughout our internships, and apply it ourselves, and mesh our own type of style, coaching, mentoring into the real world. So now we go to the next slide, to duties of interning. Um, I think I went a little bit out of order, but So the duties of interning at the Noel Diaz training camp. So in my position, I was mentoring youth from ages, I believe it was six to the professional boxers. So we had the youth after school from 3 to 5 when I was able to make it. And the youth in our community, and that community specifically in Indio, California, they're struggling youth. You can tell it's visual. Speaking to parents, we're able to tell who's in a tough situation, who has to travel further, who's making financially less than other people that we have. I was translating at events, communicating with local gyms, scheduling sparring sessions, as I mentioned earlier. Provide direction at events. So at events, we'd all be in multiple areas. We'd discuss what we were going to do prior to the event beginning. Each person had his role. There were times where our coaches were either warming up the fighters or one was fighting at the same time. So I was able to guide and direct our fighters, our other fighters that we had in line, and also discuss with the commissioners and referees and being there assisting in the legal contracts with the fighters, basically translating the legal contracts from English to Spanish to our fighters. And also, I was working with the social media outlet, which would be Instagram and Snapchat for our Noel Diaz training camp. With his 19K followers, he likes to open up the live feed. He enjoys people to ask him questions. So I'd be the one reading out what it is people were asking while he's answering / coaching. So what I noticed about that is also our era, our generation is so social media driven that, hey, if that's what you have to do, and he has 19,000 followers, for him it's advertising. For him it's kind of giving back to the community, allowing them to ask questions. Just bringing in that type of atmosphere that's welcoming. That he's not closed doors. You can ask him whatever you want to ask him. He'll tell you a direct answer. And my duties of interning with finished results, timing. Was setting up the timing equipment, which was a challenge for me. There's probably 100 wires running to one computer and battery, and learning that was a process. Coach contacts on event day, so just being able to communicate with coaches, any issues that they were having, any errors that either our staff made or that they made, but they just needed to be corrected. I was an assistant timer for the event. I would review video footage for errors when students were crossing the line and determining who won the race or who was ahead of who, because some of the situations get so close. Also setting up the network for timing and basically traveling to the event. Traveling to the event was huge. It was my first time really having to drive 2 hours to a work site, and that's what most of these people do, because every event's going to be different. So every event they have to pull their trailer, but I didn't have a trailer. I just drove to the event and I met them there. So my duties of interning with USA Fencing, just having a positive interaction. I think that was huge. Everyone was friendly. I think it's important when you're in those positions of check-in. Some people could be agitated if they're getting off a plane, or if maybe they had bad hotel experience, and then it comes to us. So I think just being able to remain positive while we're interacting with people there. I was checking in people, checking in the competitors, learning the software that they use to check in. My main primary duties were assembling and adjusting the wheelchair equipment, which was a challenge at first, and I was a bit nervous because it was more of those on-site learning experiences. We didn't have any training prior to the event beginning since it was already going on. So just having the fans, spectators there watching while I'm learning on the spot was a bit nerve-wracking. We learned video footage towards the end of the day while different events were occurring, and also just communicating with the coordinators, letting them know, updating them constantly what's going on, if there are any issues, and just communicating with other volunteers and interns. And those were the duties of interning. So overall, it was a great experience. If you have any questions regarding um, regarding basic questions regarding boxing, or if anyone lives here in the area that maybe would want an opportunity, just let me know. And also, if you have any questions regarding Finish Results Timing Company, I'm here to help. And it was a great quarter. So I hope everyone has a great holidays, Merry Christmas, and we're getting closer to the end. So looking forward to it. Thank you.